All right, YouTube, we are back with another video. And in this one, I am going to teach you how to fill out an assignment of contract. So this one, we're going to kind of piggyback off the last video I made, which was how to fill out a vacant land contract. And we're going to act as if this was, this offer was accepted and now you're looking to assign it to a buyer. So we're going to go based off of this contract. We're going to assume that this was signed on May 3rd. So we'll use May 3rd as the execution date of this contract, and now you're trying to find a buyer for it. So keep in mind your LLC for this example is 123 Investments LLC, and Advanced Solutions RE LLC is the seller. So we're going to keep that in mind when we fill out this next one. So here's the assignment. This is just a very basic, 1 to 2 page assignment. And there's a couple different ways you can do an assignment of contract. So number one is you can take the actual FAR bar and fill it out like exactly how you want. And then down here in the additional terms, this is where you'd really want to spell everything out. So what we'd put in here is this is an assignment of contract. And then down here is where you would put the specifics. So like assigner is responsible for all closing costs, and seller responsible for doc stamps. So right here, you would just want to put the specifics. So whoever's paying what, even like the assignment fee, you could talk about how that's structured, whatever your title company is comfortable with. Our title company is okay with this. So it's really just going to come down to the title company and how they want it. Some title companies will even give you a hard time for doing an assignment on the FAR bar. So the way that we're going to do it for the sake of this video is one that all title companies will accept, which is this one. So let's say you get this property under contract for $10,000 and you can sell it to a different buyer at $16,000. We'll just use for this example. So your new buyer agreed to $16,000. So we're going to put $16,000 right here. And then this is where you want to spell it out for the title company. So it's going to be $10,000 to the seller, $6,000 to the assigner. So you in the situation, if you're the one doing the assigning, you're the assigner. So right here, it says example 1 LLC assigner. So if you're the assigner, you would have been the buyer on this one, and now you're the assigner on this one. So where it says example, we're going to paste 123 Investments as the assigner. And then the assignee, you can just leave that example 2 LLC as the assignee. That's your buyer. So your buyer is the assignee. They're the ones buying this assignment from you. All right. So contract dated. So we said that the date was May 3rd of execution. So in the contract dated May 3rd, so we're going to go 5-3 between buyer and seller. So this is where you're going to put the buyer and seller from the original contract. So the buyer was 123 Investments. So we're going to paste that. And then the seller was Advanced Solutions. So we're going to paste that. Okay. And concerning the property located at address. And that's where we're going to go with 220 North Yellowtail Lane. Boom. There we go. So just to read through this really quick, assigner warrants and represents that said contract is in full force and effect and is fully assignable. Okay. Assigner further warrants that it has the full right and authority to transfer said contract and that contract's rights herein transferred are free of lien, encumbrance, or adverse claim. Said contract has not been modified and remains on the same terms contained therein. Assignee hereby, so your buyer, assumes and agrees to perform all remaining obligations of assigner under the contract and agrees to indemnify and hold assigner harmless from any claim or demand resulting from non-performance by assignee. Assignee shall be entitled to all monies remaining to be paid under the contract, which rights are also assigned hereunder. So basically what this is saying is that your new buyer agrees to the terms of your contract. So for me as a buyer, what I always want is when someone says, hey, Ryan, I want to assign this contract to you, I say, okay, I need to see the original. And they'll always, oh, why do you need to see the original? Why do you need to see it? Whatever. And I tell them, I don't care about your price. I need to see what I'm agreeing on. Because like right here, for example, buyer's paying closing costs. maybe me as the assignee, maybe I'm not thinking that I need to pay closing costs. Maybe the wholesaler didn't make that clear. Maybe they aren't educated enough to understand who's paying closing costs, and they just think that title is going to cover it, which isn't how it works. Like, someone has to pay that. So I need to understand what terms I'm agreeing to. It's the same with the closing date. Maybe I need a week to close and your closing date is scheduled for one day, then it wouldn't work out for me. And the contract I would be agreeing to is one day. So that's really where, like, sure, the assignment can kind of, answer a lot of those questions, but seeing the original is really important, especially if you're working with someone for the first time. If it's someone that you've worked with a few times, like I have several wholesalers that I work with that I don't need to see their original contract anymore. Their assignment spells out pretty much everything for me, and I know that they know what they're doing. So I'm not really worried about seeing the original, but it is still a good thing to see. All right, so down here, title company, you're just going to fill in the same information that you have up here. So whoever the title company is that you agreed on, that's what you're going to be filling in. So there's that. Now, closing shall take place. Now, you see I don't have a concrete date in. Closing shall take place no later than. So this is, again, similar to honor before language. And here we go, honor before 5/31/24. So we'll copy that. I don't know if that'll work actually, but we'll try. Should. Paste. There we go. Signee agrees to give an earnest money deposit of, you always want this if your buyer is agreeing to a contract, you want it to be more than what you agreed on. So if you agreed with the seller at $1,000, you want it to be more. So maybe we'll call this one $2,000. Because what that will do is if they forfeit the contract, you can afford to split that $2,000. You can break off the $1,000 to the seller, and then you can keep $1,000 for yourself. Most buyers aren't going to do that. Most buyers don't want to forfeit it, but out of 300 plus transactions, this has happened maybe 5 times. So it's pretty rare, but it still does happen. So you want to make sure that it's not less, because if it's less and they're only putting down 500, well, then you're going to lose money. So you need to make sure it's always more or equal to. And there's the title company. Earnest money becomes non-refundable after inspection period, if any. Money to be deposited with the licensed title company or attorney within 72 hours of the signed date of the contract. This is key right here, having a specific, spelling everything out. Down here, inspection period, typically you're going to put whatever your buyer needs, usually anywhere from 0 to 10 days. Our last one, I just haven't changed it. It's 5 days we agreed to. So there's that. And then down here, additional terms similar to what I was explaining at the start. This is where you're going to spell everything out. So if there's agents involved, you need to say who's paying the agents a commission. It's not just going to be for title to figure out. Title shouldn't need to try to guess or come up with an assumption as to who's paying what. You want to spell it all out for them. So assignee responsible for all closing costs. So that's the buyer, right? The buyer is the assignee. 123 Investments is the buyer. Advanced Solutions is the seller. Example 2 LLC assignee. So assignee responsible for all closing costs, taxes prorated to closing, lien and doc stamp seller's expense. And there you go. That's how you're guaranteeing that you as the assigner, you're getting a $6,000 net. Now, if you want to close at your title company and the buyer's okay with that, maybe you're going to have to pay title. And that's where you would put assignor responsible for all closing costs. And now you're not getting 6,000 net anymore. Now it's going to be 6,000 minus however much your closing costs are. But aside from that, that's pretty much everything to explain an assignment of contract. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I can always make videos in the future too, going over different types of contracts, but I wanted to really cover the main two, which is the purchase and sale agreement and the assignment of contract.